Welcome back to Toronto and the Paulick Report News Minute, Queen's Plate edition. I'm Scott Jagow along with Ray Paulick. Ray, yesterday we talked about the depth of this 14-horse field for the 160th running of the Queen's Plate. We talked about the post positions. There is one filly in the race, and that's very important because the history here, fillies do really well in this 3-year-old event.
They really do. In the 159 previous runnings, there have been 37 fillies to have won it. But more importantly, in the last 8 years, 4 fillies have won the Queen's Plate in the last 2 years running. That's a pretty good record.
Yeah, the question is why?
Well, one reason I think is that they moved the Woodbine Oaks, the top race for 3-year-old fillies here, a little bit farther away from the Queen's Plate. It used to be 2 weeks. You couldn't really run in both, or if you did, it was too taxing. So they pushed it back 3 weeks, and you can now run in the Woodbine Oaks and then go to the Queen's Plate as well.
Let's ask a couple of experts. No one is more expert at the Queen's Plate than Roger Attfield.
He's won it 8 times.
8 times, no one has more victories. And Mark Casse is a pretty darn good trainer as well. Let's hear their thoughts on this subject.
I think the weight advantage really helps him, you know, and that probably is the biggest thing, really, I think, you know. But it's very difficult to do the Oaks and the Plate, though, I think, you know. I mean, if they're good enough to win the Oaks and it doesn't take that much out of them because they're that much better, then they'll be able to run with the boys.
You're never going to see a Kentucky Oaks winner run in the Kentucky Derby because it's the day before. So I think they made those changes, and it's encouraged fillies to run against colts, and you see it all the time in Europe.
I think the race that Mark Casse is probably thinking of the most would be the Arc de Triomphe, where 3-year-old fillies have a phenomenal record, not just in recent years, but going back 20, 30 years against older horses.
It'll be interesting to see how the betting goes on Desert Ride as the lone filly in the race based on the history we just talked about, because she starts out at 8-1 on the morning line. I would love to have odds close to that. All right, let's talk about long shots in this race. Is there a horse that you like that's a high price?
I do like Desert Ride a little bit. I think she's live, but I also like Josie Carroll's other horse. He's a macho man. Josie has the favorite, Avies Flatter, breaking from the 14 post, which is, to me, that's a deal breaker. He's a macho man. He's making a stakes debut, so it's a big ask. He had a good local win here. He had a disastrous trip down in Florida. She had to regroup. She said that this horse is a sleeper in the Queen's Plate.
All right, he's a macho man. I don't know the chances of this horse actually winning this race, but I love his name, Kraken Wagon. Kraken Wagon was named after the bumper car ride at Canada's Wonderland, the amusement park, by the trainer's daughter, who's 14 years old, and he said, we need a tough name, and the sire of this horse is Head Chopper, which is just hilarious to me. Anyway, this is a case of looking at the individual horse, and rather than the pedigree page, according to his trainer.
Everything that the mare has produced has been primarily sprinters that don't really want to go past 6.5 or 7 furlongs. That's why it's such a shock that this horse seems to really want to go 1.25 miles. Every time we've asked him to go a little further, he's done it, and frankly, I'm surprised. But when you look at the mare, it's not as surprising after all.
All right, well, one thing going against Kraken Wagon is this horse spent the winter in Canada. That means he got no conditioning. He was away from the racetrack for a while. Roger Attfield told us that that's not really the ideal way to prep for the Queen's Plate, so no tickets. No tickets.
No tickets for Kraken Wagon?
No.
Ah, darn.
Now, I do like Mark Casse's horse, and that's my pick in the Queen's Plate, Skywire. He's the 3rd choice in the morning line. Mark is so confident in this horse. He's coming up to a big race, I think. And Josie Carroll's other horse, as I said, my long shot pick, he's a macho man.
All right. I am going to go with the filly. I'm hoping she'll be close to 8-1. That's Desert Ride. I think it'll be 3 in a row for the fillies, and she comes like a freight train in the stretch. That's my prediction. She's closed into some slow paces, and she's going to have the rail, which gives her the opportunity to save ground. So I'm going with Desert Ride to win this year's Queen's Plate. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Paulick Report News Minute. We're going to leave you with one final thought from Roger Attfield on what it takes to win this prestigious race.
Have a horse that's fast enough and can run 1.25 miles.